Another source of optimism and of contentment, satisfaction with the divine decree in our age might be the fact of the proliferation of the Ummah. Now we all know that there's a hadith in Abdal that says towards the end of time, بَلْ أَنْتُمْ كَثِيرٌ, you will be many, لَكِنَّكُمْ غُثَاء كَغُثَاءِ السَّيْلِ, but you will be like the scum on a flash flood. In other words, there's a lot, but it has no substance, no ability to resist. But it's also the case that the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam takes pride in our numbers. فَإِنِّي مُبَاهٍ بِكَثْرَتِكُمُ الْأُمَمَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Marry and multiply, because I shall boast before the other ummahs of your numbers on the Yawm al-Qiyamah. This is part of Allah's sign of his unique status as bearer of a message, that he will have more followers than the other ummahs, because he is Khatam al-Anbiya. And he will intercede for more than will be interceded for by any other prophet. And numbers do carry with them strength, however you look at it. And one of the extraordinary transformations that's taken place in the Ummah over the past 100 years or so is the growth in its size, through conversion to some extent, but also through natural increase. It's one of the ironies and paradoxes of secular or non-Muslim elites that on the one hand, they want to keep Muslim communities typically economically depressed, as in many parts of the Balkans, as in India, as in China, other places. They really don't want Muslims to be in positions of power. But when you do that, you also put them in a position of poverty, which in most cases will lead them to have larger families. So in India, the Muslims have bigger families than the Hindus on average. In Bulgaria, the Muslims are now 11% of the population. It's calculated that within 30 years, they will be the majority of the population, because Bulgaria has the world's second highest abortion rate and the women aren't reproducing. Whereas the Muslims there all have families of 6 or 7 kids. And this phenomenon means that 100 years ago, Muslims accounted for about 12% of the world's population. Now we are reckoned to be about 20%, which is an extraordinary growth in absolute terms. And the growth continues so that it's estimated that within about 25 or 30 years, we'll be 30% of the world's population, at which point we will be outstripping Christianity as the world's principal religion. And already in some places you find that Islam is the kind of default setting for religion, that because Islam, there's more to it than other religions. There's more civilization, there's more belief, there's certainly more practice than in any other religion. It's a big religion in that sense. That Islam is being regarded as the kind of normative religion, even in countries that are traditionally, historically Christian. I often find that I'm invited by companies in Britain to talk about religion in the modern world because they assume that Islam is more important in the modern world than Christianity. If you go to British airports now, you'll see that the symbol that indicates the prayer room is no longer the cross, which it used to be 10 years ago, but it's now somebody in the Jalsa position, the outline of a kind of pin man sitting in the Jalsa position, and only Muslims pray like that, because they know their experience is that it's the Muslims who use those prayer rooms, and maybe there's a Catholic Mass once a week at the chapel at Gatwick Airport. But basically it's the Muslims who are the religious ones, even in traditionally Christian countries, particularly in Europe. And this process can only continue. The Church of England 2 years ago commissioned a survey from the University of Surrey, which discovered that there are more observant Muslims now in Britain than there are observant members of the Church of England. In other words, somehow or other, they counted people who are going to Jummah prayers, and they found that there are more than Christians, the Anglican Christians who are taking communion every week, which is probably the biggest religious change to have happened in Britain since the Reformation. And of course the process continues because the church continues to age, churches are declared redundant, the number of priestly vocations continues to decline, and the number of Muslims continues to increase because, for whatever reason, the young people come to the mosques in England. And of course asylum seekers, refugees and primary immigration, marriage continues, conversion continues. And this is, for me at any rate, a source of extraordinary optimism and hope. Now, it is true, of course, that what counts is quality and not quantity. But quantity as well is important, and that's why it's indicated by the hadith as being something that the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam is proud of. Because brute numbers do count in history. God is often on the side of the largest battalions. And we now find that in every Western country, Islam is the second religion, which 20 years ago would have been unimaginable. And that process continues to grow.